Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2023 film You'll Never Find Me. It's a Shudder original and it's coming to Shudder on Friday, March 22nd. It's an Australian film and this is the first time I believe it's being streamed in the United States. So I'm considering as a 2024 release, and at the moment it is on my list of some of the best films of 2024. I know that it's early, but this is a high recommend for me. This is the best Shudder original I've seen in, I don't even know how long. It's been quite a while. I really dug this film, and you're going to hear exactly why. So good rating coming at the end, but we'll get there. Directed by Josiah Allen and Indianna Bell, and it was also written by Indianna Bell. I like the name, by the way, Indianna, and it's spelled Indianna. Really interesting. I really like that name. Again, it's an Australian film, so there are Australian accents. I quite dig Australian films for the most part. Again, Shudder original coming Friday, March 22nd. Synopsis. It's about a man in a trailer park who seems to be very lonely. It's a dark and stormy night, so ambiance is set from the beginning. And a woman who's very cold out in the rain and has bare feet shows up at his doorstep. He is very hesitant to let her in, but he does let her in. And the whole film becomes this question of who really are these people? What is really going on here? And it succeeds so much in telling that story, but drawing it out. It's an hour and 39 minutes long, so almost an hour and 40 minutes in length. Could it be cut down some? Yes, I definitely think it could be tightened up a little bit here and there, but it still keeps you super engaged. So I don't really fault it too much on the pacing at all. So just know if you have a hard time with slower films, you could have a hard time with this one. But a lot of times I have a hard time with slow films, and I was all in. I was fully engaged, and I'll kind of talk a little bit more about that as I go. That's all I want to say about the synopsis. I'm not going to give much away about this because you should just see it. Immediately, it looks great. Really interesting shots and really interesting camera movements. It keeps you fully engaged. It looks beautiful. This is so well shot. Wonderful cinematography. You can tell the directors knew exactly what they were doing. Indianna Bell's the writer, knew exactly what they were doing as well. I mean, there are so many really well done films with this one. They set up a great atmosphere of creeping dread from the start, which is always helpful in grabbing someone's attention very early on and keeping you engaged. Their ability to maintain that atmosphere was very impressive, and obviously they do it in a few ways. They do it with the acting, they do it with the sound design, which sticks out a lot in this film, which I'm a huge fan of. I love films that really showcase the sound design, and that's usually because they have A, a more restrained score that they're using, and B, they're not afraid to use these moments of just silence, like no score at all, so you can focus on that sound design, and they really do boost it, and it helps with that ambiance. The composition of the score is really good. Things sound like very off and very mysterious and kind of like dread-filled and messed up, so that's really great. While it is cliche, I do believe that having like a thunderstorm going on at the time does work for this film quite a bit. I know a lot of times you'll kind of see a movie like that and you're like, oh, this is so cheap. They're using a thunderstorm. But if the acting's really good, it's shot really well, the story is really good, like everything else comes together, it's fine. Like it just works. And yeah, I'm in. There's a tense and scary ambiguity in the beginning that keeps you on edge. And I will say that they kind of maintain that scary ambiguity for quite a while in the film, which really does help kind of string you along. They don't give you too much in the way of like breadcrumbs of additional information as it's going on. It's kind of more about like keeping you immersed in that atmosphere and that feeling of like tension and dread that's going on and all. But the way they string you along so much is the performances, the dialogue, and you just really wanting to know like what is going on here. So yeah, so good. Again, very good acting in this one. Like I was kind of just getting to, really have to shout out the two main performers. Jordan Cowan and Brendan Rock. Outstanding performances. Outstanding performances. And it's one of those situations where you realize that if they had not got the right people for this, the film could easily fall apart. Yes, there was a really strong script and there was really good dialogue to start with it, but you need the people who are able to deliver those and play off each other and have the correct chemistry, and Rock and Cowan do. They do such a phenomenal job, so big thumbs up to them. Again, dialogue is very well written, and it slowly hints at and reveals things. That's one of the nice things. Like I said, it's not like the best of intervals of like little breadcrumbs throughout the film of information. I would have done, I wouldn't say I would have done it, but I would have preferred that it be a little more consistent with some little tidbits of information to kind of start unfolding the story. But it still keeps you fully engaged. And like I said, it's this dialogue that really keeps you going with it, which is a very odd thing because there aren't that many films that I can think of personally where the dialogue captivates you as much as it does within this film. And that speaks to, obviously, the great acting, the great writing. Characters deliver lines in such an even keel, slow, almost whisper that's unnerving. And that's one of the interesting things, and that's one of the kind of aspects of the ambiguity I was talking about in the film, is because they're kind of delivering lines very much the same, they're on the same level as characters, and you don't know who you should be rooting for, you don't know who these people are, you don't know really what's going on, so you just feel kind of confused and on edge, like anything could happen at kind of any moment, and you just don't know how okay it's going to be in the end, or really dark and messed up it's going to be in the end, and you'll just have to watch it to find out where that goes. But yeah. What I was talking about with that kind of like even keel, slow, almost whisper delivery wise reminds me a lot of the film Possum. If anyone's seen Possum, it's a very similar style for the acting and the dialogue to be done. Great movie, really dark and messed up. This one's not as dark and messed up as Possum, but it is also dark and kind of messed up. The use of lighting in this is great. You see what you need to, but everything else is dark, which makes you feel like there's potentially something there. This is something I really love in films, and I've seen it done extremely well by Joko Anwar, Indonesian filmmaker Joko Anwar, where there's this ability to just light a certain amount on the screen and then leave a bunch of blackness around. It gives a feeling of isolation, but it also gives this really creepy feeling of you don't know what's lurking right outside of the aura of that light. And it just really increases the atmosphere of the film in such a scary, creepy, dread-filled way. And I love the way they executed the lighting in this. And it's not just that type of lighting. There is another type of lighting that comes in at the end of the film, which I'm not going to say what it is because it will give something up about the film, but I really like how they incorporated that as well. Sound design really shines and adds so much to the film. I already talked about that. I love the sound design in this, especially at the end. It hits so hard at the end in such an amazing way. And I also love at the very end of the film, they drop the score out and you're just kind of left to sit with something, and it just works so well in my opinion. They create some very effective horror visuals. So for a while you're going along and you're like, yeah, I get it with like the atmosphere and it feels tense and I'm feeling some dread and it's kind of creepy, but where are like the big time horror visuals? They don't go huge on them. It's not like ridiculous practical effects and lots of gore and stuff like that, but they are very effective. They're very well built and they fit into what's going on with the story. Even the ending is slow, but the dialogue really, really sells the ending of the film. Again, going back to how well written the script is. Again, I do think pacing-wise it could have been tightened up some and it would benefit from that, but not a lot. Really not a lot. And I really like where they take this film in the end. I was of two minds as I was watching it. I'm like, I feel like they could go just like a very simple, straightforward route, or they could do something very interesting and twisted. It didn't go exactly the way I hoped because I had an idea that I thought would be even more awesome for the finish, but I really did enjoy what they did with the finish and how they executed it in particular. The concept of where they went for it in the end could have fallen flat, but it's all in the execution, and they pulled it off very well. The last thing I want to say is that a lot of the atmosphere of the film feels like it's created as a metaphor for how women can end up feeling in a male-dominated society and end up being treated and marginalized in a male-dominated society. That's just something I'm going to throw out there. I don't know if that was intentional, but that's something that kind of came through to me as being a potential in it. I really felt that when I was watching the film, so there you go. But anyway, that's all I have to say about You'll Never Find Me. Out of 5 stars, half stars, and play, I'm giving it a very good 4-star rating. For anyone that's hasn't been watching my channel much, just know how I rate films. Barely anything gets a 5-star rating. I mean, one of the films I can think of that I gave a 5-star was The Shining, just to give you an example. That's a 5-star. I barely ever give out 4.5 stars. I don't remember the last movie I gave a 4.5 star. And 4 stars I very rarely give as well. So 4 stars are basically really good films. So anyway, would love to hear other people's opinions on this film once you've seen it, even if it's differing, even if you didn't like the film or you were middling about it. Go ahead and put it in the comments and we'll get to talking about it. Do me a quick favor, please subscribe to my channel. That is your best way to support me if you like this video or any video I've ever done. It's free, it's painless, it costs you nothing, so it's very much appreciated. Go ahead and hit a thumbs up on this if you want to boost this review so that more people see it. Helps out with the algorithm on YouTube. And then also hit the notification bell button if you want to know when I'm putting up new videos. But other than that, thank you so much for checking out this video. I appreciate your time, and until next time, keep it brutal.